Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal, where we invite you to explore the heart and soul of our company, Kiwi Brothers Trucking. Through engaging storytelling, insightful market updates, and vibrant energy, our podcast reflects our culture, values, and achievements. Whether you're a team member or industry enthusiast, join us to build connections, foster growth, and inspire excellence. Discover why we're more than just a company. We're a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those aspiring to be part of something extraordinary. The pre-trip is complete and engines ready. We're set to hit the road on the Keep Trucking Personal podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal. My name is Tyler Keevy and I'm your host. Today's guest is someone that runs under our regional flatbed division. He has a great story to tell. Welcome, Israel Larue. Israel, how you doing?
Good.
I'm glad to have you on here. Heard a lot of good things about you, and your story is unique to us, so I'm excited to get into that. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I was growing up as a kid. I always got into trouble, and in high school, always was a troublemaker in high school, but I always enjoyed giving the teachers a hard time and stuff. And they always kept telling me, you'll never get paid to stare out a window. And look at me now, getting paid to stare out a window.
Prove them wrong.
Yep, I sure did.
That's funny. That's I can't say that I'm much different. I went through my my stints in school of giving the teachers a hard time, and yeah, I can relate. So you got through high school, giving those teachers a hard time, and then you come to how do we get to trucking?
So it actually started in high school, probably 2 years before graduation. Started working for my grandfather, and he was into the I'd say more of like the dirt work side, and he had trucks and a semi, and I started learning on equipment and trying to figure out, how all that went. And one day he said, get inside the semi and take it to the next job site. And I'm like, oh, alrighty. So it took me a good hour before I figured out how to move it, and played around because it was parked in a cornfield at the time. And I played around with it. It was an old Freightliner. And about 2 hours later, I got it to the next job site. And that's where I just started learning from there. And I eventually got driving more on job sites. And then right when I turned, I believe it was 18, I went to get my Class B and passed it with flying colors and so forth. And that's how it began.
Once again, I feel like I have a real similar story. It's awesome when it's not so much tiptoe your feet in there, right? It's here's the keys. You just figure out how to do it. Like, especially if you've been around a little bit of operating equipment, and it kind of helps give you a leg up. But yeah, real head first, get in there and figure out how to do this. And once you get that sense of accomplishment, it really helps you propel that growth, right? And that's cool to hear that yours was kind of that same approach. Get in there and figure it out.
Yes, it was. It was very nerve-wracking, but also very exciting at the same time.
So then when did you upgrade to your Class A so you could pull a trailer? And
after I got my Class B, I worked for my grandfather for I don't know, till I was probably 23, and then he retired and shut the business down. And then that's when I went to the asphalt company that I work for now, and they were looking for Class B drivers, but also Class A, and they were offering to pay for schooling. And I took the chance and went to the schooling that they offered, and I eventually got my Class A, and then just slowly started going up from there.
Very cool. I think there's so much opportunity that young, when we were young in school, we kind of had got, your grandfather helped you, my growing up in the family, but for many of the kids that are unsure what they want to do, but they enjoy being the thought of being around heavy equipment or traveling, there's such a good opportunity that you can get into trucking right after high school. And there's many companies that not only need the help, but will help you get that license so you can be successful.
Yep. And I appreciate that they offered that, because it's brought me to more of an understanding for trucking, and I love that.
So then you got into the asphalt. What was your first OTR company that you worked for?
It would have been Kiwi Brothers,
Yep.
because
And
most of the asphalt was all local, and just every moving equipment to job site to job site. So when I came here, that was my first experience with OTR.
it's awesome. So when you did our orientation and you went through that, did it help refresh you on tying down all the equipment and kind of getting familiar with the flatbed side?
Yes, most of the chaining down equipment and stuff I already had down, but using straps and tarping and different more fragile loads
Yeah.
than like you would be able to use for chains and stuff. That was all a learning curve that I enjoyed to learn.
And our orientation crew does a great job, but Sean is very passionate about the best way and the most efficient way to secure freight. And if you've never done flatbed, you leave orientation feeling well equipped. That's the best way I would put it.
Absolutely. Every time I come back, I go through orientation, and I think I always learn something new from Sean every
Yeah.
time.
He's a great person to have that phone number in your pocket, because he helps a lot of drivers. Once they leave orientation, he gives that opportunity to, hey, if you have any questions on cargo securement, any questions just in general, because to your point, some of it is very fragile. You could talk about granite slabs to, the more robust skid steers, that you may have came from with the asphalt. But let's talk about how you and Kiwi work together, because it is kind of a unique story. Your summer months, you're typically working for an asphalt company, and when you're at that asphalt company, you're pulling an RGN, or what are you pulling when you're there?
Mostly, yeah, an RGN lowboy, and I'm always moving pavers, excavators, dozers, some small stuff, skid steers, mini excavators, rollers, pretty much anything and everything.
In the construction side, yeah.
Yep, everything. And then moving our portable asphalt plant, which can go up in 12 axles,
Yeah,
asphalt silos, drums, conveyors, pretty much
you name it.
a lot of stuff.
So you go through the busy summer, the long days, then obviously it gets cold and they can't lay asphalt anymore, and your time to Kiwi then begins. How does that work for you? Like, you get them busy hours when you get to go over the road. Do you prefer that much more relaxed pace? Is it kind of nice to have a little bit more of that focused windshield time?
Yeah, it is. It's very nice to, sit and relax and, just drive down the road and get to go different places, and
Like vacation compared to the hustle and bustle of
that it
local
is, that
work.
it is. You're correct on that.
So what are your favorite parts about being in the flatbed? And, obviously we haul all kinds of different things, but what's some of your favorite things to do that changes it up from what you normally do in the summer?
I would say probably getting to see like everything, because if I didn't come here, I wouldn't be able to see half the stuff that I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
over the road. Getting to go to different states and see all the like the mountains and stuff, and that's that's a win for me.
Yeah, a lot of people like getting that opportunity to go through Montana or go to Washington, and especially in the winter, I guess it can be quite the sightseeing trip. Might have to pull out those chains and chain up,
Yeah,
but
I try to stay away from the West Coast as much as I can, but sometimes you gotta go out that way, and sometimes it pays off, the views and stuff. So I enjoy it still.
Well, that's awesome. Like it's cool to see that drive, because a lot of times the construction work is such a push, and then it's hard to continue that energy and say, okay, now I'm going to go drive over the road. And for you, and you've done it with us multiple seasons now. This isn't just one season that you've done it; it's reoccurring. And for us, there's always a place whenever Israel's ready to go. Your driver manager Nicole is excited, and she's usually giving us indicators. Hey, we have a couple weeks, and we're going to see Israel again. And
Yep.
on the other side of the coin, hey, a couple weeks, the construction starting to pick up. So it's exciting for us, and we love when we get to work with you each time, and look forward to it time and time again.
Absolutely. It's an awesome experience. You get to go from hot weather to getting to, relax in a warm truck, and eventually you make it down south and it gets warm and you're like, you know what, let's go back up north.
Nice to change it. It's like a thermometer, go up
Yeah,
for some cool,
absolutely.
go down for some heat.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit more about just your experiences and how a driver would be successful at Kiwi. Like, what does it take to be a successful driver here? And from your experience, and like you said, you've come back multiple times, and having that break in between is almost like coming back to, I don't want to say a new company, but things change, like for the good. There's opportunity, there's enhancements, there's upgrades that happen on tools. There's things that are continually trying to get better. And you've kind of walked out, walked back in. Tell us how all that works.
Yeah, the first year here, I came here, and the first truck I got was the Kenworth W9. And then, by the time I left and then came back, those were completely gone, and moving into the Peterbilts, and got to drive those for 2 more years. 2 more times I came back, and then coming back to, more better and improved equipment and more safety equipment also, the in-car or the in-cam and the out-facing cam and better e-logs and stuff was very nice.
It definitely helps make the job easier, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. It does. And I'm enjoying this new motive that we have. It's a lot easier than the older stuff that I first started with.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes some of these changes or upgrades that are easier to look at it as, can be very tough to work through just because there's so many moving pieces, but we're very excited and it's refreshing to hear it from your perspective, because you've got to come in and out and touch and you literally use each one. And yet you can see from a company focus how safety has gotten so important. And that's probably, you touched on it, right? The safety, the trucks becoming more roadworthy for safe driving, giving the enhancements that help keep you guys safe.
Absolutely.
What else is different? What else is exciting, notable changes like that you notice?
I'd say it's mostly equipment. We keep upgrading and upgrading equipment. I just noticed in the yard that we must be getting a lot more newer lowboy trailers, because I see a lot more newer and improved the equipment for the heavy haul side, which is nice. Everyone loves a new trailer until it gets dirty, and then it just goes downhill from there.
Yeah, and we've continued to invest in that. Just like you said, upgrading equipment, trying to, attract different customer pools, and really always focused on that next level. And that's sometimes tough as a truck company, because you can get so caught up in the moment. And as we're trying to work on the current day, as well as put those binoculars up to your face and say, what is it going to look like in 3 years? What's it going to take to be stand out in a couple of years? How do you set yourself aside? And that's cool. I appreciate you giving me that feedback just on the equipment, the safety, the telematics getting easier. What other insights would you have for a driver that's coming to Kiwi? That I think working with Nicole is amazing. She's an amazing driver manager. What insights do you have for the connection between a driver and driver manager?
Communication is a big one, but get to know your people just in general. Like when you have a service that needs to be done in Duluth, I'll just walk around and start talking to random people and then eventually you get hooked on some kind of topic, and then there you go, you got a new friend,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually you just keep talking and talking, and that's pretty much it. Just communication. You get to know more people, and you got more people to ask for help, and that's just a big key is communication.
That's great advice. When we were preparing for this podcast, I always kind of do some due diligence and just ask for feedback. And a lot of the feedback that I got regarding you was he's never late. He's always on time. And sometimes it's you don't even hear when there's no news, sometimes no news is good news. And it's typically like Israel's always on time. Like when he says he's going to do something, his trip planning must be impeccable because he's there. How do you do your trip planning? You want to tell us a little bit about that? What makes you so successful on time deliveries and on time pickups?
So when I trip plan, I try to start out as early as possible in the morning. That way I can end early, and you don't have to worry about truck parking and trying to find a place to park at, you know, between 4 and 7 p.m. It's about impossible to find a truck parking at a
Yeah.
truck stop. And then I always am trying to keep my driver manager updated as much as possible. And I always allow 30 extra minutes. Like, say I'll actually be there at 2. I'll just tell her that I'll be there at 2:30 just to have a little cushion, because you never know when you'll run into traffic or an accident or something that'll just kill some of your time. But then you still got a 30-minute cushion to rely on, which always works out for me. And it
Yeah.
has worked awesome so far. That's all I could probably say for that.
Just communicate, start your days early so you get that stress off your back of where am I going to park or try to find a place to park late. Give yourself a little cushion on that ETA, about a half hour, keep her updated or whoever it is updated as often and as frequently as needed. It's working for you, man. Like I said, it shows, especially when we go through and hear that you're on time and everything, and you never hit a late delivery, and that's hard to do in this industry, especially with all the traffic and construction, like you said. You would know the
Yes.
most, I guess, when it comes to construction, shutting those
Yep.
lanes down. And
Yep. When you come in through construction zones, a lot of people seems like they can't read signs. So you can see from a long ways away from the construction zone, it most likely they'll tell you, what lane you need to be in. So you get in that lane and you just stay there. That lane's the fastest lane that moves. So you're in and out of that construction zone pretty fast.
there's some advice. So whenever whatever lane is closing, instead of waiting till the zipper merge happens right at the where it ends, get into the lane that's going to be open as soon as possible, and you'll move through faster.
Yep. And then having the CB helps a lot, because, sometimes the lane that says that's closed is actually probably the one that's open,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes an accident will happen and you don't know that till you get up there. And when people, help giving you relaying information ahead of you, it helps so much more.
Yep. Well, and that's something I want to note as well is, as we've changed telematics, Motive produces a safety score, and you have a great safety score, and that's not easy to do.
No.
How do you maintain a safe with all the things you do, getting up early, doing all this? How do you maintain a safe driving day? Have you had to curve some habits now that you get into those focus points, and what's helped you do that?
Yeah, you just gotta follow the laws that apply, and you follow them laws and rules, you pretty much have a perfect safety score.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, I'm assuming the cameras are AI based, for speed limits, but that's about the only time I ever get something dinging is the speed limit, because it seems like it just reads it wrong or something. But
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely not perfect.
no, but it's very nice though at the same time, because
Yeah.
sometimes, you might not be paying attention, and the speed limit will go from 55 to 45 just like that, and it's dinging right away. And if you're not paying attention, it's nice that it dings and lets you know that,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you're going too fast.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, because sometimes people look at that situation as like a big brother concept, where from your perspective, you're saying, hey, look, it's protecting my license and my record because we're in it together. You and I are in this together. If something happens, whether it's speeding or unsafe lane change violation, whatever it is, we're in it together. And
Yep.
if you can take that approach and say, hey, I'm going to be the best driver, I'm challenging myself to be the best driver, to follow the laws, yeah, we're going to come out on top together. And that's awesome. I appreciate that perspective.
You're welcome.
Any other significant challenges from really getting into this high level safe driving? Because there's so much to unpack on it. And I think when I drove with motive, and to your point, it holds you accountable, but it motivated me, no pun intended there, to do better, to drive the best that I can, and to produce the best score. Is that kind of, do you get motivated by that, or is it just you being accountable and being the best drivers is enough? Or does the score influence you to keep trying to do better?
Not really, I guess, because the score, if you keep that in the back of your head, you're just going to try to not screw up, and then you'll eventually screw up and it'll not help you at all. But I just kind of, follow the speed limit, read signs, and watch your mirrors and stuff, making safe lane changes and following distance. And that just seems to stick with me, and it's worked so far.
That's a great way to look at it again. Like, just have it be your fundamental baseline. Like, it's not stressing you out if something does happen, because you're right. It's very hard to, in this industry with people merge in front of you and traffic jams and all that, it's very hard to be perfect, quote unquote. And that's a tough thing to accomplish. But understanding that, hey, if your baseline is what the expectation is, that you have room to grow, or you have room to drive that score to the top.
Yes, very.
Well, Israel, is there anything that you'd like to share at the end here, closing tips for drivers that are maybe want to be a driver in high school, or somebody that's got their Class B that drive dump truck in the summer and is maybe contemplating driving over the road in the winter to get some of these views and experiences?
Just do what you want to do what you love. It helps. Ever since I got in that truck to learn how to drive, it's just stuck with me. And a lot of these kids in high school, they want to do it, but once it comes to it, they don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. But if I just try something new, and you never know, you could be in the next couple of years sitting where I'm sitting behind the wheel.
Well, I know we love working with you, so if that's a good indicator that helps set everyone up for success. I definitely appreciate you taking the time and joining us today. This time since we've started Keep Trucking Personal has flown. We're already past a couple months into this, and I'm definitely excited to see where the future takes us.
Yes, I'm glad that this is a podcast where people can hear other people on their journey through trucking, and it's very nice.
Yeah, well, especially if you're waiting for that asphalt plant to get tore down, you got some time there, you pop it on and you'll stay in the know.
Yep, I like it. Ever since I heard that it was coming out, I never thought I'd be on there, but here I am.
You just never know.
Nope.
Thank you for tuning in to Keep Trucking Personal. If you liked today's episode, please like, share, or leave a review. We want your feedback for next episode topics. Until next time, be a safe driver.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Keep Trucking Personal. We appreciate you taking the time to explore the heart and soul of Keevee Brothers Trucking with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to let us know your thoughts. Tune in next time as we continue our journey together, diving deeper into what makes us a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those who aspire to be part of something truly extraordinary. Until then, keep trucking, and we'll catch you on the next episode.